Concerned vocal parents are the new target of the radical left. The University of Pittsburgh puts out an approved language list, plus the defund the police movement is turning out to be a big loser for the Democrats. All that and more. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour.
God bless the United States of America.
Okay, friends, welcome to the show. Happy Wednesday. I hope you're having a great week. If you're new to the show, thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to start with the war on parents because that is exactly what we are seeing around the country. From school curriculum to hostile school board meetings to social media, there is a war being waged against parents, and the prize is America's children. The left have realized a long time ago that the molding of the minds of children is often left to entities other than parents. Kids are shipped off to government-run schools. They watch movies and television programs that have become more and more obscene, and they drown themselves in social media. Yes, it is the responsibility of parents to be involved in what and how their children learn. My point is that the left specifically targets children in order to indoctrinate them and produce more leftists. As Adolf Hitler said, he alone who owns the youth gains the future. Just look at what's happening across the country with the 1619 Project, critical race theory, and transgender policies that amount to nothing more than child abuse. Parents who speak out are actually being targeted. But we may have just reached the boiling point where the tide is turning in our favor. The move by the National School Boards Association, in coordination with the White House, to have parents investigated and labeled as potential domestic terrorists by Biden's Justice Department has sparked outrage, and the fallout continues. Here's the story. State school board associations are distancing themselves from the National School Board Association, NSBA, after it apologized for sending a letter comparing parents' action to domestic terrorism and requesting federal intervention. Republican lawmakers are calling on Attorney General Merrick Garland to withdraw his memorandum that upheld the requests of the letter. The Ohio School Board Association terminated its membership and affiliation with the NSBA on October 25th, stating that it was a direct result of the national organization's letter sent to President Joe Biden. Ohio is by far not the only state taking action. At least 17 other states have condemned the NSBA's letter to the Justice Department. Florida, Kentucky, Louisiana, and Alabama are considering leaving the organization altogether. Here's more. Emails obtained by Parents Defending Education uncovered that the NSBA was in communication with the White House several weeks before the controversial letter dropped. The White House requested information on specific threats taking place across the country. Republican members of Congress have since questioned Attorney General Merrick Garland, who issued a directive to investigate allegedly unruly parents, whether he knew about the letter before it was sent to the White House. 8 Republican House members are now demanding that Garland fully and unequivocally withdraw his troubling directive to sic the FBI on concerned parents. This move by the NSBA and the White House was nothing less than parent intimidation. And this is just one example. The Daily Caller also reports that Loudoun County Public Schools in Virginia require parents to sign what amounts to be a non-disclosure agreement in order to view curriculum on critical race theory. That's right, parents can view it, but they can't talk about it. As part of LCPS's broader equity agenda, the district spent approximately $7,700 to become a licensed user of Second Step programs, a branch of the left-leaning nonprofit organization Committee for Children. According to a copy of the NDA-style form reviewed by the Daily Caller, eligible parents at LCPS must sign the document to view the Second Step curriculum. Personally, I think we need to get the government out of the education racket. We see the motives of the left, and for too long, they have counted on parents not paying attention. And if the parents did pay attention, the left counted on them not speaking out. Well, those days are gone, and now the left is resorting to threats and intimidation. The key for all of us is to keep fighting and keep exposing what the left is doing to indoctrinate our kids. All right, so next let's talk about the left's woke fascination with gender. But first, If you're new to the show or haven't subscribed yet, regardless of platform, just search out my name, hit that subscribe button, make sure notifications are turned on. That way you can follow the show and help us grow. Okay, so next is the University of Pittsburgh, which is on a quest to purge the world of what it calls sexist language. It's just amazing what America's college and universities spend time on these days. Instead of working to see that the best students get the best education, these institutions of higher learning are focused on safe spaces and white privilege and hating capitalism, and now eliminating so-called sexist language. Here's the story. The University of Pittsburgh has declared that terms such as secretary, clerk, and ombudsman are considered sexist language. A new gender-inclusive, non-sexist language guidelines and resources page made by the Office for Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion at the University of Pittsburgh features a section titled Terms to Use to Avoid Sexist Language. The guide also considers mankind, chairman, freshmen, and ladies and gentlemen examples of sexist language that is considered language not to use. So, ladies and gentlemen is now sexist? The phrase includes both ladies and gentlemen. How is that sexist? Perhaps because it doesn't include the hundreds of other genders the left says exist? I don't even know. The guide also recommends using administrator instead of secretary or clerk. Clerk? How is that word sexist? And how is administrator not? And depending on the actual job, how is administrator accurate if you're really talking about a secretary or a clerk? It's just nuts. But hey, the University of Pittsburgh isn't alone. Kamala Harris has been busy as well, not addressing anything at the border, even though she's border czar, but instead making an announcement on gender. President Biden and I released the first ever national gender strategy. This is our vision for the future of our nation, one that is bold in strategy and one that this moment calls for. Yep, with all the problems going on right now, Biden and Harris have to make sure to keep up their woke street cred. Harris Faulkner over at Fox News not only thinks it's a waste of time, but bad politics as well.
What happens if they don't work? What happens if that becomes another job that doesn't get done? I think it's more explosive for this White House to tinker with the things that could really backfire with their base than to try to fix the things that hit everybody all at once, like inflation.
Yeah, 100%.
It's politically a powder keg if they don't get it right. Yeah. And what proof do we have that they will?
She's right. There's no upside to Biden and Harris doing this. And it likely will be just one more failure. But that's what Harris is doing. And back at the University of Pittsburgh, in addition to the sexist language bulletin, they also have guidelines on pronouns. Under the headline of How to Use Gender-Inclusive Pronouns for Third Person Singular, the university gives us this handy chart for using they and them, but also z, zim, and zer. Yes, apparently those are real words, and you better use them, or else the left will have a meltdown. All right, so next, here's an update on the defund the police movement, and we all know that as the Democrats pushed defunding the police as one of their priority issues, crime started to skyrocket. Imagine that. As budgets were cut and the Democrats targeted the police with marches and demoralizing rhetoric, the result was so predictable. Unless, of course, you're a radical leftist. Remember when the left tried to embrace Chaz as some kind of socialist utopia? No police were allowed. That section of Seattle fell into chaos and crime and anarchy. Well, it turns out that some folks, especially those in the black community, have had enough, and the defund the police movement is losing steam in places like Seattle and Minneapolis. Here's the story. In two of the nation's most liberal cities, Seattle and Minneapolis, polls show voters rejecting candidates in ballot questions in favor of defunding police departments. A poll found that a majority in liberal Seattle, 54%, want the city to hire more cops, while 38% advocated shifting money away from the police budget to fund ways to address root causes of crime, such as investing in mental health services. Among people of color, 57% wanted more cops and 35% wanted to shift money away from the police. The majority of people in Seattle want more cops, not fewer, and an even higher percentage of people of color, 57%, want more cops, not fewer. that certainly doesn't play into the left-wing narrative. And here's more. In Minneapolis, a recent poll by multiple news outlets, including the Minneapolis Star-Tribune, found that voters supported a ballot measure reconfiguring the police department by 49% to 41%. However, the support was mainly from white voters who backed the idea 51% to 40%. Support among black voters was 42%, with 47% opposing the plan. Under the proposal, the police department would become the Department of Public Safety. The changes meant to signal a new approach to crime by adding more mental health and substance abuse services to traditional law enforcement. Among black respondents, 75% oppose reducing the police force. What that means is the support for the restructuring of the police force in Minneapolis is mainly driven by white liberals. Blacks actually oppose the restructuring plan, and 75% oppose reductions to the police force. But here's the deal. At least for the next election cycle, the Democrats are married to the defund the police movement. It's a campaign issue, and I'd use it all the time. There's hardly an issue out there that says out of touch and incompetent more than the idea that reducing the police force will actually reduce crime. Okay, finally, there are only 6 days to go until the next governor of Virginia is decided, and the momentum is with Republican Glenn Youngkin. Youngkin is taking on liberal Democrat Terry McAuliffe, who has already served as Virginia governor. He's trying to win it again because that's what liberals do. They just want to hold on to office and destroy society in the process. Here's Youngkin talking about how the education issue is moving people toward him and away from McAuliffe.
The biggest issues is education. We're actually seeing parents stand up and saying, hey, listen, I actually have a big say about my kids' education. And Terry McAuliffe wants to put government between parents and their children. And Virginia parents are saying, no, not here. And I'm going to go to work for Virginia parents. And Terry McAuliffe stands for government. And Virginians are voting right now to make sure that they have a say in their kids' life.
Great comments. And it's important that Youngkin gain traction in these highly concentrated liberal areas of the state. Loudoun County is one of those areas, and I've talked already about this, about how its public schools are now in the national spotlight for not only going after parents pushing CRT, but also covering up incidents of assault. Loudoun County went for Joe Biden by 20 points, but Youngkin is making inroads.
I called for a full investigation of the Loudoun County School Board, the Loudoun County School Superintendent, and the Commonwealth Attorney because they're not standing up for children's safety. They're not even standing up to get the schools open. They're not standing up for curriculum. They're not standing up for materials that are being shown to kids that parents don't want to see anymore. They won't even stand up for their safety. And this is actually turning Loudoun County our direction, but not just Loudoun County, all of Northern Virginia. You watch. We're going to do better in Northern Virginia than any Republican has done in a long time, and we just might win Loudoun County.
Great stuff by Youngkin. If he can make strong inroads in Loudoun County, he can win this thing. In the meantime, Terry McAuliffe brought in Joe Biden to generate enthusiasm, I guess, and Biden mumbled his way to something like this.
In fact, we're taking a page from Terry's book when he was governor and when he'd be governor next time. We're emerging from this pandemic. We want to expand pre-K for 3- and 4-year-olds, millions of pre-K students.
I have no idea what he was saying at the end, but it's typical Joe Biden, and it kind of summarizes Terry McAuliffe. Virginians deserve better. McAuliffe is not the solution to anything, and it's clear the Virginia voters are figuring that out. Friends, that's our show for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and don't forget, if you're new to the show or haven't subscribed yet, regardless of platform, just search out my name, hit that subscribe button, make sure notifications are turned on. That way you can follow the show and help us grow. Thank you so much for tuning in. Our next show is going to be Friday evening at the usual time, 6:30 p.m. Central. Until then, I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour. All right, friends, thanks again for tuning in. I really appreciate it. And before you go, please hit that subscribe button above. Once you do, tell your friends, share it, spread the word about the 13-minute news hour so we can keep growing. And for more great content, check out these videos right here, and I'll see you next time.